With her virtual warehouse steadily filling up with resources, Elara began to prepare for a critical aspect of survival she had overlooked before: food, beyond mere sustenance. She remembered her previous life, gnawing on tree bark, eating whatever she could scavenge. Those days of desperation and hunger were behind her now, but the memory of them remained stark and vivid, a reminder of the life she wanted to avoid in her second chance. She decided that survival wasn't just about staying alive. It was about preserving her humanity and enjoying small comforts, like a hot, well-cooked meal. In the face of impending doom, she wanted to hold on to what made life worthwhile. And so, Elara set out to master the art of cooking. With an entire internet at her disposal, Elara immersed herself in online cooking tutorials, from the basics of making a simple stew to the complexities of gourmet recipes. She practiced day and night, using the fresh ingredients she had already stored in her virtual warehouse. With every meal she cooked, she stored multiple portions in her warehouse, ready to be enjoyed after the apocalypse. She experimented with various dishes: soups, salads, stir-fries, pasta, even baking. It wasn't just about storing food. It was about creating a variety of meals to keep her spirits up when times would be tough. She knew the morale-boosting power of a good meal, and she intended to leverage it in the post-apocalyptic world. As she cooked, Elara felt a warmth that didn't come from the stove. It was a sense of satisfaction, of control over her destiny. She wasn't just preparing to survive. She was preparing to live, to experience the joys of life, even in the face of its end. When she wasn't cooking, she was learning about nutrition, about preserving food, about which plants were safe to eat and which were not. Her cooking venture was a well-rounded survival strategy. The world's end was drawing ever nearer, but Elara, with her steaming pots of soup, her freshly baked bread, and her growing collection of hot dishes in her virtual warehouse, was ready to meet it. The last days of her world would not be days of despair and deprivation. They would be filled with strength, resilience, and the comforting aroma of a hot meal. As the days rolled on, Elara could feel the world around her changing. The heat, once just a mildly discomforting fact of summer, began to take on a relentless, unbearable quality. She knew what was coming. She had lived through it once before, and she was bracing herself to live through it again. Outside, the world was oblivious. People fanned themselves, complained about the unseasonably hot summer, and carried on with their lives. But Elara knew better. She knew the stifling heat was more than just a freak weather event. It was the precursor to the end of the world as they knew it. With 10 days left, the nights began to stretch into the days. The scorching temperatures turned day into an inferno, making night the only safe time to venture outdoors. The world adapted as best as it could. Companies shifted their working hours, and the government implemented policies to enable remote work. People turned nocturnal, staying indoors during the day, emerging only after the sun set and temperatures dropped. For Elara, these changes were eerily familiar. But this time, she wasn't a helpless participant in the world's unfolding tragedy. She was a player, armed with knowledge and resources, ready to face the coming apocalypse head-on. Even as the world around her changed, Elara continued her preparations. She followed the unfolding events closely, cross-referencing with her past experience to ensure she didn't miss anything important. She kept filling her virtual warehouse, hoarding water, food, tools, and everything else she might need. Every day she added more to her stockpile, and every night she reviewed her lists, ensuring nothing was forgotten. In the midst of the impending catastrophe, Elara remained calm and resolute. She had learned from her past, and she refused to let it repeat itself. As the countdown to the apocalypse continued, Elara steeled herself for the trials ahead. She had been given a second chance, and she was determined to make it count. The apocalypse was coming, but so was Elara. Ready, equipped, and unwavering in her resolve to survive. As the days passed, Elara was reminded that her preparations weren't the only thing she had to be careful about. It wasn't just about hoarding resources and ensuring her survival. It was also about protecting her secret, the existence of her virtual warehouse. Throughout her months of preparations, Elara had always been meticulous about keeping her unique ability hidden. She conducted most of her purchases online and arranged for delivery at various locations to avoid raising suspicion. She knew the danger of letting her secret slip. Her past life had taught her the hard way. Elara's best friend, Mira, had been with her since the beginning of the end. They had stuck together through the initial chaos of the apocalypse, helping each other survive. But as the days turned into months and resources dwindled, Mira's loyalty wavered. In their second year in the post-apocalyptic world, Mira had betrayed Elara, planning to hand her over to the dreaded hunters in exchange for food. Elara managed to escape, but the betrayal had scarred her deeply. Now, reborn with the foreknowledge of Mira's betrayal, Elara found herself grappling with a complicated mix of emotions. The Mira of this time was still her best friend, yet she carried the shadow of the traitor Elara knew her to become. Despite this, Elara kept her distance, politely fending off Mira's attempts to spend time together. The approaching apocalypse only made her caution more pronounced. While the sting of betrayal still lingered, Elara understood that survival could push people to their extremes. She didn't forgive Mira, but she recognized the desperation that had driven her. And so, she resolved to ensure that no one, not even Mira, would discover her secret this time around. As the apocalypse drew nearer, Elara's solitude was her shield, and her secret was her lifeline. She had learned her lessons and had no intention of repeating her past mistakes. The world was about to end, and she was prepared to face it alone. For survival, she realized, was a solitary battle.